Hello, everyone. My name is Lin Huynh. I am the founder and host of Fan to Fame. We're here today with a very special guest. He's a former NBA point guard for the Golden State Warriors. Please help me in welcome Keith, Mr. Jennings. How are you doing, Mister?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. How about you doing? How you doing today?
I'm doing well. I appreciate your time. Being similar height as you, being 5'7", being a huge basketball fan, and being from Virginia, more importantly, I'm kind of biased when it comes to people from Virginia. I tend to root for them a little bit more. You're
Right.
someone that was a big inspiration to me, and I think to many people. So I look forward to chatting with you, sir.
Hey, I really appreciate that. It's always been my goal once I became a basketball coach is to make a difference in people's lives, and for you to tell me that I made a difference in your life, and this is our first time meeting. It really makes me feel good. So I appreciate you.
No problem. No problem. Well, jumping into it. So your first name's Keith, last name's Jennings. You probably get this all the time, but how did Mister come about?
Well, that came about through Little League football. I was 7 years old. Just met my new teammates and everything. And, after being out there for 2 or 3 hours after the draft and you do all that little stuff that the kids have to do. Of course, my dad, he's ready to go because me and my older brother and little brother are out there and we all just playing throw up football, tackle and all that good stuff. And, you're having fun as a kid. You aren't ready to leave, right? So my dad is like, Keith, let's go. And I could hear him, he was within definitely ear range, but I'm faking everybody out. Everybody was like, oh, look at him. He's nice. And he was like, Keith, let's go. And I still ignored him. And he was like, Mr. Jennings, get your butt over here. And I stopped me in my tracks. And a couple of the young guys were like, Mister, he calls you Mister? I was like, yeah, he calls me Mister. And it kind of really stuck. And, everybody in my hometown, that's pretty much what I'm known as, Mister. Every now and then you get people like, I don't want to call you Mister. What's your real name? So they'll call me Keith, but I answer to all of that. Mr. Keith, Coach. It's all
Just make
good.
it respectful, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's all good.
I'm thinking at a young age, if someone called me Mister, I'd be kind of caught off guard. But I think other people, like you said, around you, be like, you get called Mister. You get that type of respect. So that told you where you're gonna go in life already, getting that nickname.
Yeah, it was a good setup. I appreciate that. My dad did a good job with that nickname.
He did. So you were born and raised in Culpeper, Virginia, not too far from where I'm from, which is Winchester, Virginia. Another thing we can relate to, even though we lived in the city and whatnot, we definitely are probably some country boys deep down.
No doubt.
Could you talk about your experience of basketball? How did that come about?
Well, I grew up in a athletic family. My dad played ball. My mom played softball, and my older sister played softball. My other older sister ran track. My older brother played basketball, and then it just filtered down to me. And, we played them all, baseball, basketball, football. I always thought Notre Dame was going to be where I wanted to go play college football. I thought I was going to be good enough to do that, hence the football story early. But, basketball was just the one that kind of I really started to gravitate to. My older brother beat me all the time. Then he's 3 years older than me, and he still lets me know this about that to this day. Probably from the ages of when I started playing from like 6 to about a freshman in high school. I took a lot of L's from him. And it really made me work on my game. It made me do things that I didn't envision myself doing, but I found out getting up and jogging in the morning and getting into great condition and then coming back in my little driveway and with the gravels and the rocks and just making jump shot after jump shot after jump shot and seeing my game start to get a little bit better. And, the kids that were my age, I was kind of, I won't say head and shoulders better than them, but you could see the difference in our levels.
Right.
And, it's just, just with our family, like I said, my brothers and my younger brother, we played all the time. It got to the point where when you get asked for your autograph as a freshman in high school, you kind of wonder, like, when that happened to me, I was like, somebody put you up to this, because I'm a sports fanatic. So I saw people autographs. I see what can happen at the end of the year if you play well enough. You might receive awards. So all of those things kind of played into my brain at an early age. And, it just took off from there. And once you start getting good at something and you start believing in something,
right,
next thing you know, you start dreaming about the NBA. And then you have so many doubters and so many people
right,
see you be successful that's going to tell you, no, you can't do it. Like I heard I was too small. I heard wasn't big enough. I heard being from a small town, you're not going to do it. So you had to block all of those things out. And my family was a great support system. They would have the select few that never doubted me.
Mm-hmm.
Looked at me crazy, but they never said, "Mister, you're not gonna make that. Do something else." If anything, my dad was like, "You better make it, because working with hands, that ain't something you can do."
Right.
So they have great family support, and led the journey for me becoming the basketball player that I became.
That's awesome. So being 5'7", growing up, I would like to think I was a decent player. Definitely wasn't to your stature, but I always had that aspiration. I think I find myself being a bigger fan back in the day, watching basketball, watching Michael, watching you, Chris Mullin, the C-Webb, all those guys. And I always had an aspiration of one day, if he asked me, what would you want to be? I would say NBA player. And there was some piece of me that really felt like that could happen. But like you said, there are always naysayers, or when you actually played in games, you always find yourself being like the smallest guy. So that kind of made me self-doubt. What did you get that often? You talked about size. Did you get that often? And if so, like, what was it that propelled you to think, you know what? In the league, there's usually guys who are taller, but I can actually make it. When did that actually come to fruition for you, when you had that mindset? It's like, this is possible.
Well, I would think, like you said, if we're basketball players, so we know going to the park was probably one of the major things back in my time anyway. And, that's where you really learn how to play. Older grown men get off work, they go have a couple of beers or a couple of drinks or whatever they do, and they come to the park. And, the bigger guys always just ran the smaller guys off the court. They was just like bullied us for the court all the time. And I can remember in like 8th grade, 7th, 8th grade, I'm thinking they're going to pick me up, and they like, man, no, y'all need to go. And I can remember saying vaguely, y'all not going to keep running me off the court, And then by my freshman year, the old heads that I respected, they kind of like got away from the game. So they didn't even really give me a chance to go at them. It was like seeing your idols of Culpeper High School basketball play. And then you like, okay, y'all been running me off the court for so long. Now I finally get a chance. And then they kind of like disappeared.
Right.
So they kind of just left it open. At that point, I'm starting to have a lot of confidence about myself. And actually, my older brother had left to go to Norfolk State. So I really didn't have that type of competition besides my friends now. And I was kind of better than those guys. So it just got me hungry. So I couldn't wait for my brother to come back. And then when I was finally able to beat him, wow, this is what hard work does. I mean, get up and jog in the morning. If I didn't make those 200 jump shots before I went to school and then back after school and played and made some more shots, I don't think there's no way I could have reached the level that I, being a small player, don't have room for any weaknesses to be able to make that. And I tried to pride my game of, they might say I'm small, but I think taller guys had a lot more problems playing against me than I did them. So it became somewhat easier for me. Now, the only time, and as you probably know, the only time I really had a problem is when these taller guys know how to play against a smaller guy. Yeah. Then the game is to their advantage. Playing somebody 6'5", like playing against Penny Hardaway that's 6'7", or Gary Payton is like 6'3", know how to rebound and do things that the law of physics helps them more than it helps me. Right. But you take that part out of it, skill-wise, I don't think anybody's skill level was, I could compare mine to pretty much anybody. Right. Shoot with my left hand, my right hand. I could shoot with range. I could pass the ball. I could handle the ball. I could play defense. Right. It's part of my game that I felt like you could look at and be like, he can't do that, but he can't be tall. That was the only one I really had to deal with. And once you get to the NBA, that's when all the naysayers was like, he did make it. He finally did. And that was, fast forwarding when my first NBA game was against the Utah Jazz. And how I found out I made it, Tim Hardaway, who I got to know through that process of trying to make the Warriors, became cool with me. And I can remember it was like the night before the team was getting ready to assemble and go to Utah. And I'm in the locker room just sitting around. I'm thinking, do I get a pink slip in my locker? Or how they gonna tell me? Am I gonna make it? I'm hearing rumors because I'm playing well in the preseason. Right. He walks in the locker room and he was like, "What's up, Chief?" And I was like, "Nothing, man, just waiting to see what's happening. He said, you don't know if you made the team or not? I said, nah, no one's told me anything. He said, hold on, man. So he goes over to the phone in the locker room and he grabs the phone. And so I don't know if this is that rookie BS where they messing with
right.
do that. You know, I had to get some coffee and some stuff for some, you know, it could be a joke, right? And he was like, yo, this is Tim. Did Mr. Jennings, he make the team? And I'm looking at him like, you looking at me? And he gives me the thumbs up like, I mean, it was like, I still didn't know, but it was once I really realized, yes, I did make it. It was like the best feeling ever. And when I ran out on the court at Utah and I'm looking, you know, that's that run out on the court and you cut half court and you looking around and you see all these people in Salt Lake City, I was just so thrilled. I mean, my eyes start welling up because your dream has come true. And that's why I encourage young people to dream, because if you're winning, if your dream comes true, everything you did for that to happen, you're going to feel so good that you stuck it out.
Absolutely.
I also tell them to dream, even if your dream doesn't come true, that gives you something to live for. If I dream for that, I often wonder what I would have done. And you know, once my eyes were welling up and I look down the court and I see John Stockton and Karl Malone, and I'm like, boy, you better get ready. Stop all this crying.
You know what, though? I don't blame you one bit, because I would have been the same way. And especially for a smaller guy like us, it's going to be tougher. So there's not many of people our side that's going to be in the league. So you did something that's very astonishing that not many people did. So it doesn't matter what height. Like, it's just hard to make it to the NBA, period. So
it is.
I don't blame you.
I got cut my first time trying out. You know, I didn't get drafted. The Indiana Pacers brought me in as a rookie free agent.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, that's when I understood the difference between college and the pros.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that because I didn't have anybody come back and tell me what to expect or what to look for. So when I got, it was like a humbling experience for me because I've never been cut trying out for anything basketball wise.
Yeah.
I played my first professional year in Germany, and then God blessed me with that second opportunity to try out with the Warriors. And I approached it so much differently that I didn't make it this time. At least I tried my best. That first time I was just going off of my accolades in college and being the best small player in the country, you know, second team All-American, just thinking, well, I got all of this. There's no way I'm not going to get drafted. And then you get drafted and then you get cut. Then you got to wonder, am I really ready for this level?
Yeah.
NBA is it's the best level. Everybody, I would like to catch stories of the ones that got close but didn't make it, because I was one that was close and made it. So it's a story that I'm sure everybody that dreamed for it or went after it, they have an interesting story in that process.
No, absolutely. I definitely want to touch more about your NBA days, but kind of taking a step back, you went to East Tennessee State. How did that all come about? And did you think, like, after your senior year that you would make it to an NBA, or like how did that kind of lead to your NBA route? Which I know you went to Germany in between. I think you played in a couple of leagues in between. So can you kind of just walk through that journey of how it went from college to then the NBA?
Well, my cousin, I had a cousin named Sharon Allen that was from our hometown also, and she was like one of the high school female basketball legends in our area. You know, we used to play a lot, and she kept note of me as a youngster. And so she goes to East Tennessee State and she's ended up working on the women's staff, but she became cool with the men's staff. So one of the main assistants, Coach LaForce, she asked him, could he come and look at me? And by that time I'm a freshman, I'm about like 5'3" or so. And he asked, like, how tall is he? She's like, well, he's small, you know, he's 5'3", 5'4". And he was like, I tell you what, by the time he's a senior, I at least go check him out for you. And she was like, okay. So fast forward to my senior year, I'm like the two-time first-team All-State performer. I'm like the all-time leading scorer at my high school and closing in on being the all-time scorer of the whole conference. And he happens to come to a game where I needed like 16 points to be the all-time leading scorer. And I got it in like the first half. They like stopped the game. My teammates grabbed me and lifted me all up. They're running me around in the gym, and we still got like a whole half of basketball to play, right? At the same time, I was excited that Coach LaForce was like, whoa, this little guy, he's small, but he can, you know, he has it, so to speak. And so a little bit later, they flew me into Johnson City, East Tennessee State, and I met Coach Robinson and Coach Hanners, and they ended up offering me a full scholarship. And actually, they were the only school to offer me a full scholarship.
Oh, wow.
Any school in Virginia, because I went to UVA my senior year as basketball camp in high school, James Madison, George Mason, Richmond. I mean, all these schools I would have loved to have went to.
Right.
All point guard, it wasn't a big market for us.
Right.
And actually, I was a shooting guard in high school. So I knew I was going to have to transition to the point guard. I thought I would have to if I had to score it.
Right.
Ready to do that. But I ended up coming to East Tennessee with some really, really great players, and we helped turn this whole program around. And, you know, by the time I left my senior year, like I said, I didn't get drafted, decided to go to Germany my first year, which was, it turned out to be one of the best decisions because my younger brother, who helped build me as a basketball player, was in the Army in Germany. So we ended up like an hour and a half away from each other. He was able to come up and see some of my games. Actually, I made the All-Star team that year. We went to Berlin together. The night before, I didn't even think I was going to play well. That train ride to Berlin, I was like, man, I just hope I get in the books. I hope I just can score.
Right.
Really want to play. I ended up being MVP of that All-Star game and just had a blast. And I got a shot with the Warriors right after that, really. So that process of learning what it was going to take after getting cut differently, because when I made the summer league team with the Warriors, next thing you know, I'm playing in the summer league game. Greg Popovich is our coach, and he's liking how I'm playing. And I remember right in one of the games, he took me out of the game. I'm sitting on the bench, and next thing you know, Don Nelson, the head coach, beside me, and I'm looking at the game, but I always pride myself on my vision. I always felt my vision goes back this way.
Right.
So he sat beside me. I'm wondering, like, does he do this a lot? I haven't seen him at all. And now all of a sudden he's sitting beside me and he said, "How you doing, Keith?" And I'm like, "Hey, coach." And I shake his hand. You know why the game is happening.
Right.
A couple of things he'd like to see me do. And he wants to invite me back to the veterans camp. So now I'm like, okay, when I got cut at Indiana, it was no mention of the veterans camp. So this is where everybody's coming back, you know, Chris Mullin.
You're thinking this
Hardaway.
Is going somewhere. This is going somewhere.
Exactly. I'm getting a little bit closer.
Yeah.
So I ended up making it back, and I make the summer league team. After the summer league team, I make the preseason roster, and then next thing you know, I'm playing really well in the preseason, and came down, like I said, that phone call with Tim Hardaway. I made it, and I started off really well, but I tore my ACL like the ninth game of the season. And so it's like it all came crashing down. And that's another thing about us small guys or anybody that go through things. Once you achieve something and then it's like snatched away from you, kind of go through that period of why me? Dang, I can't believe it's happening. But then that's when you think back to what you did to get there and you strap back on again. And, you know, luckily he kept me and I was able to play a couple of more years with the Warriors before I got with the Nuggets and then finished my career overseas, which I will be having some overseas footage coming out pretty soon. So be sure to keep an eye out for that.
I definitely will keep an eye on that. And that's a shout out for everyone to keep an eye on it.
Yeah.
So you talked about, you know, when you first stepped on the court, all that emotion that kind of came. Again, I don't care who you are, just make it to NBA at any level, despite your background, despite your height. That's just a tremendous accomplishment that not many people can say. But you played with people such as Chris Mullin, you played with Tim Legler, C-Webb, Hardaway, so Latrell, Sprewell. You played with a lot of legends. Can you maybe talk about just playing with those players, and do you have any good stories you could share?
I mean, you know, I got stories for days from those days.
Yeah.
I mean,
what's something people don't know about certain players, or like things that happened during the NBA season during that time that not many people knew about? Can you maybe share?
Well, I think one of my favorite stories is when I first met Tim Hardaway. You know, before the whole action in the locker room, when I get invited back to the veterans camp, and I'm at Alameda Gym where Jason Kidd went to high school at. We in that gym, that's what we were working out at. And, you know, you're just going through those emotions of like, okay, I'm really here now. This is where, you know, actually, I'm gonna fast forward. When they flew me and Latrell in at the same time. Latrell first class. That's the first round draft.
Okay.
Coach, the free agent. So outside, Latrell has a limo waiting for him. I have the little like Civic waiting for me, so.
Hey, as long as you're going to the same place, that's all that matters.
Yeah, but at that point I knew, I was like, okay, it's definitely levels, the first round to a free agent. So I can't come in expecting anything. So I'm knowing I'm gonna have to earn everything that I get. So when you get to that gym and you're tying up your shoes and I look up, I see Chris Mullin walk in and I'm like, oh, that's Chris Mullin right there. I see him all the time. And
right.
See Billy Owens walk in. Then and Latrell and I, we was at the same hotel, so we got to chat a little bit. So then we see Tim walk in, and Tim, from what everybody knows, is a big trash talker. He loves to talk.
Yeah.
I knew that by watching him. I saw some of his documentaries when he was at UTEP, so I kind of had, and he was
what to expect player. A little bit.
Yes, exactly. So I kind of, I've never been scared of anyone when it comes to basketball, but I knew certain players, you better bring your A game or they'll just eat you up. So the first time, I say what's up to him and he said what's up. And when we check up, he's playing defense against me. And, I don't think I think smaller guys get that rep of they're fast and they're quick, but they can't shoot. But if you didn't follow my career at East Tennessee State, then you didn't know that I
you
shot
shoot.
close to 60% from the three, right?
Yeah.
So when we check the ball up, he gives it back to me. I'm at the top of the key. He's like at the foul line, like totally disrespected. And I'm like, I passed the ball off to the right. And I gauged the distance and I'm like, dang, he don't think I'm a shooter. So I'm like, if that ball comes back to me, because these are the league guys now,
right.
On one. If it comes back to me, I've already got in my mind, I'm going to be aggressive. So I'm going to let it go if it does.
Right.
And it comes right back to me. And when it did, I was like at the top of the key. Nice jumper. And the thing about it, Tim looked at me. He looked at the shot, and then he kind of looked back at my release. And when it went through the net, he was like, you can shoot, huh?
Hey, you can't be 5'7" and not shoot at all. That doesn't make sense. Yeah.
I know, right? But that's just, I think, people's mentality of the small. Yeah. So once, it was just then at that point about how can I get his respect? He started respecting that at that point. So then, from then on out, when we would go to other places to play, he would call me, we would call each other. We got used to playing with each other a lot. I was good at handling the point. He was a point guard, but he could play the two. And the coach always thought it was a tough matchup for other people. So, Tim was one of the cool ones that I got along with. Chris Webber was a cool guy. Just meeting him, he changed our whole organization. It was
just like coming from Michigan, the Fab Five.
From Michigan, we went from nobody being around to everywhere we went. It was like a group of people just wanting autographs, just wanting his attention. And he was just a cool brother, man. Yeah. For that guy to come in as a rookie and point guards get along with the big guys because they know we're gonna pass them the ball and everything. And,
exactly.
He was just, when he left, it was tough to see him go to DC. But when we went to DC, we'd hook up and hang out and stuff.
Right.
Latrell was, a lot of people say some crazy things about Latrell, but as far as a teammate and a basketball player, that guy went to war with me, and I went to war with him. It was a pleasure being out there on the court with him. We could go on and on. I'm sure when we link up, we can talk a little bit more. But it was definitely some fun times and some fun stories.
No, that's awesome because all those guys you mentioned, that's when I first started watching basketball around that time. So, knowing that you played with them and hearing these stories, that's just really cool because sometimes, especially back then, it wasn't like social media, which is probably for the better. Yeah. But you don't see the inside scoop. Well, nowadays, if you want to know what, one of my favorite players, Trae Young, Bradley Beal, if you want to go to the Instagram, you can follow what we're doing. So this is not things you often hear unless you got inside scoops like yourself. So very cool to hear. Well, it's probably I'm sure you got a lot of it, but what are a couple of things that really pop out when you reflect back on your NBA career that you always cherish?
Some of the simple things that people probably wouldn't even think about, like, when you come from college or when I went to play in Germany after that, you usually have a roommate on the road. So when I went back and tried out with the Warriors and I made it and we go to our first East Coast road trip where we played in Miami and Orlando and all up, Boston, all up through the East Coast. Having your own room with a jacuzzi in it was like, I couldn't believe that. I'm like, most of the time you have a roommate, but in the NBA, It's like, nah, we don't need no roommates.
Right.
We all just kind of, we grown men now. So I was like, wow, that's cool. So just being on the road, being by yourself was interesting to me because all of my close friends that were up around that area of coming to see me in DC, or driving up to Boston or driving to Philly, it was good sharing those moments with my closest friends that supported me and believed in me. That was like one of the things that I definitely remember. That I was so thrilled about the rooms in Miami that I had a career high that night at Miami, like 22 points. I was like 8 for 9 from the field, going back to the hotel, seeing your name, seeing ESPN, watching Mullin grab.
You're feeling yourself, weren't you?
Yes, I was. And then to go to Orlando the next night to play against Shaq and Penny, but then I tore my ACL that night. Like I said, that's when everything was like, wow.
Yeah.
If I made it, I was almost like the sixth man, but then all of a sudden now you got to sit out the rest of the season.
Right.
Just going through that part of not feeling a part of the team because you go away and you have your surgery and you do your rehab.
Yeah.
But like I said, my younger brother was out there with me going through my rehab, which really helped me. And my older brother came back out because he was going to Shepherd College up in West Virginia.
Yeah. Okay.
And I happened to fly him out, and he left the snow in West Virginia and came out to the sun out in California. He was like, when I get back, I'm going to come back out here.
I'm coming back.
So to share that with my brothers, man, it was like, unbelievable. That's because cool. Those two really had a lot to do with my attitude and how I became a basketball player. Like my older brother helped me have that killer mentality because he beat me so much. And so it taught me to, you can't worry about people's feelings. If you got to beat them, you got to beat them. Mm-hmm. And then my younger brother was like, nah, mister, it's all about you. You can do it. Let's go run it. I'll pass the ball to you while you shoot. And I'm like, that's so unselfish of him.
Right.
And rebound and never shoot. And I think that helped me with my passing because it made me want to, I saw what that did for me. So now I want to uplift other people because, everybody wants to score the basketball. Mm-hmm. That was not a problem for me to share it. Right. So, some of those little things are really what come back to mind when I think about that journey early in that career.
Yeah, I definitely can attest to what you share because I think about just everything in life. I never made it to the NBA, but some of the little wins I see about my life, I always reflected back on my family. You need someone there with you. You don't do it alone.
Not at all.
I always think about during negative times or times you don't want to hear certain things. They all kind of come back together when you reflect back and you think about, if it wasn't for that, if it wasn't for my family, I wouldn't be here. So it's kind of us doing it together. So it's a good memory for everyone to kind of cherish together. So I definitely can hear you on that.
Yes.
Think about the NBA. I don't know if you watched the NBA much since you kind of hung up your shoes. But
big fan.
Big fan still?
Yeah.
So besides the physical part of the game, I think it was way more physical when you played to it is now. I think now
I would have got fouled a lot more back then because they could hand check you and really put that hand on you like Derek Harper and these guards could almost maneuver you around the court. Today's game, you can't do that.
I was gonna say, what's your perspective on the games besides the physical part of it? Like, what's the difference that you see? Whether it be like the athleticism, the business side of things, do you see things that really pop out to you?
Yeah, definitely the business side of it because the athletes that have been in the NBA, they're always gonna be top of the line. Mm-hmm. To me, I don't think it's ever gonna be an era that's gonna come through and trump another era to be like,
right.
No pun intended with that Trump that word, but
yeah.
I don't think it's gonna be another level that's gonna be like they couldn't have played here. I mean, a lot of times they say some of like the LeBron era guys, the younger guys now that they couldn't play in the Jordan era, the bad boy era, but I think they probably could have. So, but for the most part, the business side of it, like you said, with social media, with, even in the pandemic, the league is having a lot of success. And like that's one of the things I hope brings the world back together, sports. Because I know a lot of people from different upbringings and white, black, different people, sports keeps you together. You don't matter. It doesn't matter what color you are. You know what I'm saying? But as soon as you leave the sports realm and we go into the real world, then that's when everything gets messed up. So I really hope sports is what's going to bring this nation back together because we're losing some precious time dealing with some of the madness that we got to deal with.
Yeah. No, absolutely on that. Growing up, I was always, so being where I'm from, there wasn't many people that looked like me. And then especially playing basketball, I was always the token guy. But if it wasn't for sports though, half the people I met throughout life would never have happened.
Right.
So I always talk about sports, music, and food brings people together.
Man,
you have all that stuff, you're good to go.
All day. I use those daily, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So you hit on Michael Jordan. I had to ask this. How was it playing against Michael Jordan? And when you think about Michael Jordan and LeBron, what's your perspective when people put those comparisons together?
Well, growing up, I always thought Mike was that guy. I respected him when he was at North Carolina. You watch his game grow. You watch him go to the Bulls and really do his thing. So I was definitely, a big Michael Jordan fan.
Yeah.
When he retired after, I think it might have been after winning his first 3 championships, and he's played baseball before he came back. A lot of people don't know that at that time, Latrell was like one of the top 2 guards in the Western Conference. Mm-hmm. And so Mike was good friends with Rod Higgins. So he came to Golden State and worked out with us for like a couple of practices. Okay. And that was my last year with the Warriors. So we were a bad team. So, we didn't win a whole lot of games that year. You might remember that year. It was right after C-Webb left. So it was kind of tough. So I can remember like the end of the season, and I walk into the locker room and I see Michael Jordan lacing up a pair of Jordans. And I'm like, "What's up, Mike?" He was like,
just like the commercial, right?
Yeah, right? I was like, "What's up, Mike?" He was like, "What's up, Keith?" And I went and sat in my chair and I'm looking, and he's like to the right of me, and I'm looking at him, watching this lace up his stuff. And I'm like, "Mike, you working on something today?" Because that's one thing about me, Lynn. I don't have problems speaking to people.
Yeah.
I didn't ask for a lot of autographs when I played, but this was gonna be an opportunity to ask one for my son.
You couldn't pass that opportunity up.
Different people, I had to take advantage of it. So he said he was gonna work out with us. We ended up practicing, and it's funny. I remember one time we were on the same team because him and Tim Hardaway, they was yapping, going at it a little bit, and I was running the break. Mike was pushing it up in the middle, and I think I can finish over people. And after the play, he passed it to me, and I got to the basket and made a pass out. And he was like, "Hey Keith, stay out there a little bit and shoot that little jumper." I was like, "I can finish at the basket, Mike. I can make things happen." He was like, "All right, man, whatever."
That is hilarious.
I was laughing. I was like, "Dang!" I wonder he was probably like, "Man, who this little dude talking like that?" But then a little bit later, I caught him in the locker room again in the training room and asked him could he sign a hat for my son, because he don't sign a lot of autographs. And he looked at me and he was like, "What's your son's name?" I was
okay.
Like, "Man, my son still has that hat to this day." So
that's awesome.
I think Mike was the guy, but I'm a fan of the complete basketball player, which I think LeBron is.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
My opinion right now would be, if I had to pick one, I would probably lean towards Mike. But if I had to get a player that does everything, I would think I would go with LeBron.
Right.
I think LeBron is special in that aspect. I mean, he can pass the ball, he can score the ball, he can rebound the ball.
Play all 5 positions.
He's a walking triple-double. You can't say that about Mike or or a lot of other players. So in that aspect, and as many times as LeBron has been to the finals, I don't care if you win it that many times. You got some people that don't even ever get to the finals.
Yeah,
so to get
that's
that
true.
Many times and beat a vocal point. I mean, at least Mike had Scotty and Dennis. And LeBron had maybe Kyrie and AD. You know what I'm saying? Last year, really, he didn't really have a lot with him. So if he had a deeper squad, I think he definitely would have won more titles.
Yeah.
Like you say, when it comes to who you like, that's opinionated.
Yeah.
I like watching good basketball, no matter who's playing. The park and watch somebody that's fundamentally sound or exciting. I mean, that to me is good basketball.
No, I'm definitely 100% with you. Michael Jordan's the reason why I started watching basketball. But I'm the type of person, I'm not going to be a hater. I like, if it's good basketball, I'm going to show respect. LeBron's not my favorite player. I'm not going to say he is. I'm not going to jump on that bandwagon, but he's an all-around player. That's something you can't take away from him. He can play all 5 positions. Not many people can do that. He has pretty much all these scoring titles, and that's not his mentality to score.
Nah.
For him to do that so easily is amazing.
He could have been caught Kareem. He could have been caught Kareem if he would have been a ball. So to speak.
That's not him though.
It's not his play.
Yeah. No, I'm with you 100%. Who was so like you said, you had all around game. You could shoot the ball, you could dribble, you could penetrate. I've definitely seen videos of you. I've watched you. You had all around game. Who was the hardest person that defended you? Who was the toughest defender? And who was the toughest person you had to defend?
I would say I don't think anybody is really a tough defender, even though I do get offended when people are like, I don't like watching the NBA, they don't play defense. I'm like, if you think it's easy to play defense on some of the best offensive players in the world,
that's true.
You really don't know basketball, because a great offensive player is always going to trump a good defensive player.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean,
you might be able to slow them down, but you're not going to stop them.
Nah, only way you can stop them is if you're like superiorly quicker, taller, tougher, stronger.
Yeah.
Usually you're always missing in one of those categories when it comes to a really good offensive player. So I always felt like, offensively, you got to be able to score the basketball, but you got to be able to do other things. Defensively, you just got to get up in people. So for me, Gary Payton's length kind of gave me issues, or either Coach Nelson felt like his length was going to be a problem for me on the defensive end, because automatically he was one of the guards that went right to the post. I heard that a lot in my era of playing, because a lot of times they were going to take advantage of that post-up situation.
Right.
Jason Kidd was another tough one, because he was actually 6'3", 6'4" with speed.
Mm-hmm.
You see a lot of guys his size that fast with the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And Muggsy was smaller than me.
Yeah.
When you saw him coming at you with the basketball, it was like he looked bigger.
I can see where you're coming from with that. Yeah.
I mean, he would get up on you so fast. So those three come to mind, but I would say Kevin Johnson, John Stockton, Nick Van Exel, Kenny Anderson. I mean, every night, I felt like I had to be on point, because somebody could light you up. So I thought at that time, every night it was going to be a challenge. And watching the game today, the guard play hasn't dropped off. I see a lot of guard play on every team. I really like that Fox kid from Sacramento. I think
De'Aaron Fox, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I really like him. And of course, I'm always going to be a Steph fan, because I think he changed the game with his size also. He's not one of them bulky two-time defending P-type winners. You know what I'm saying? He's a thin guy with incredible range, incredible confidence. And actually, I can remember playing against his dad at Charlotte, watching Steph shoot in the gym before the games. And I'm like, I wonder if he's going to be able to do anything. And look at this guy.
Look at him now. Yeah.
Same thing about Tim Hardaway's son. I remember his son we would throw the ball on the floor. He'd run and go slide on the floor. That's for the kid. Now this dude is an NBA, capable all-star possibly. So it's great seeing how the game is being played forward. And as a coach now, I definitely like to try to give that to my girls' teams or guys when I talk to them, just to, let them know that this game can be special to you. But my thing is, if you're not a well-conditioned athlete when it comes to basketball, you will never know how good you can be.
Right.
And I figured that out.
No, absolutely. I'm thinking even when I played growing up, half our practices, we wouldn't even touch the ball. It was about running, push up, doing, 17s. So I was like, I thought I signed up to play basketball, not track. Like, track is next season. But you know what? Like our coach always said, and this is Coach Dixon, so shout out to him. He's one of the legends in Winchester. He was always about, everyone can play ball, but no one can say they're in the special condition that you guys are going to be in. You guys can run for days. You guys can play defense. That's going to lead to scoring. Not other teams going to do that. So that definitely resonated. That was kind of PTSD in a way, but in some good ways. So you played about 3 seasons with the, I believe with Golden State. I think you spent some time, like you said, with Denver. Honestly, you were still a young guy in the league during the time. What led you to kind of, halt your career with the NBA and kind of move to Europe? Was it due to injuries, or was there other reasons that you had in mind? Because I thought you probably could have played more years.
You know what? It was funny you say that, Lynn, because my dad always would ask me, are you going to try to get back in the league? Are you going to try to get back in the league? Well, you get to a point where, okay, my dream had come true.
Right.
Started some games because Tim got hurt. But then when Tim came back, it kind of moved me back into the backup point guard role. And I'm the type of guy that I just want to play.
Yeah.
Sitting on the bench for me is not playing.
Yeah.
So when I got a chance to go overseas, and once you play in the NBA and you go overseas, it's like you got a pass that if you played in the NBA, you can play in
anywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, you can go anywhere.
Yeah.
A lot of times in those teams, you know, you only have 2 foreigners, and so a lot of responsibility is placed on you. So when I remember when we were in the NBA lockout, I think it was in 96, 95, 96. And during that lockout, I ended up going to Spain to play. And so I figured I'd just stay in shape, make some extra money while I'm over there before I come back. And the lockout, by the time the lockout was finished, I was playing so well over there and they were loving me. I was like, you know what? I think I'm just going to stay over here and finish this season out. So I did that, got back with the Denver Nuggets the next year, blew my knee out again, a chance. And so I ended up going to France after that. And France was like a point guards league. So when I got there, I was just coming back from the injury. I wasn't playing the best, but I was playing good enough where you could see I was starting to get strong. Right. And I knew, I was like, okay, I'm only about 75, 80% right now. Next year, when I come back to this team, I'm going to be 100% and I'm going to kill this league.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened. That next year, I was MVP of the league, the second round of the playoffs, even though we lost in the second round. But that kind of put me at a level in France where some of the people were saying that was the best year they had ever seen an American have over there. And it was some pretty talented Americans that had played over there. So it just gave me a good feeling about being able to play overseas and finish my career over there. And, you know, I made a lot of sweet memories over there. Man. Yeah. A lot of all-star appearances, a lot of scoring, not a lot of scoring titles, but I led scoring before, led the league in assists. You know, it was great memories.
I bet. No, that's awesome. That's, again, with sports, it's so much things. It brings people together, people that you probably wouldn't meet in life, but then opportunities just to travel, right? Whether it be within the States or even for your states internationally, where not many people can say they did that.
Yes. Basketball showed me the world.
Showed you the world. I was going to say, how was that like going over to Europe? Because nowadays everything's so accessible. If you want to learn about, you don't even need to travel. If you want to see how Italy is, go on YouTube, go to travel channels. But back then it wasn't as accessible. And like, if you want to learn a language, you can't go on these apps and learn a language. So how was that transition coming from the United States to going to Europe and playing for as long as you did there?
I mean, like you said, when you live your life, you know, I'm 52 now. So when you live your life and you look back on things, it makes you realize, like, I should have took it serious. Like when I took Spanish in high school, little did I know I was playing in Spain, right?
Right.
BSing in the Spanish class, doing whatever, and not knowing. And then you go to Spain, and now you're like, some of this sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Dang, why didn't I take this? You know what I'm saying? So it made me realize that, you know, don't pass up on a chance to get different information.
Right.
But it was a blessing for me because a lot of the cities I played in, English is like the second language. My coaches spoke English. A lot of my teammates spoke very good English. So I always was ready to translate for me.
Yeah.
As opposed to some other friends that I know that played in like the lower levels of these countries.
Yeah.
Nobody spoke English. And
they weren't exposed. They weren't exposed as much, right?
Exactly. So a lot of them was like, I'm not staying here. I can't understand people. So I had to go. So you realize some of the blessings that are playing in a nicer city where they know a little bit more. It just helps you get through it while you're there. Like you said, I mean, I don't even care to travel now. You know, just being able to been to Spain and Italy and Russia.
You've done it all.
And I mean, I don't even think about traveling really, unless it's and you know the way we living right now, you know, I saw most of the states, so I'm more comfortable just being kind of secluded by myself or just with the people that still rock with you from day one, you know, which is mostly my family. So it was good to be able to see all of that, and at the same time, I can definitely share stories about those countries, especially when some of my girls would dream to play overseas. I can definitely give you some info and still maybe know some people over there that could possibly look out for you. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, I appreciated playing in those countries, and the friends that I made while I was there is something that'll always be special.
Absolutely. Yeah. So when we catch up here, next time you're back up in the Virginia area, I definitely want to get your thoughts and hear more stories, not only about the NBA, but traveling around the world as you did. Again, that's not an opportunity that many people have. And I haven't traveled, even though I'm Vietnamese, I haven't been to Vietnam before. I haven't been to Europe before. So talking to someone like you can tell me where to go at, what to do, not to do. So I'll put that on our checklist of things to talk about.
Sounds like that's an easy one right there. Don't be surprised when you go over there. Somebody might be waiting for you. Like, hey, Len, I got you. Let's go.
Hey,
especially in France.
Okay.
Feel good there.
We'll continue this conversation.
Sound good.
You talked a little bit about the girls. I think what you're referring to is the girls that you're coaching now. You're a head coach at Leeds McCrae down in North Carolina. Can you talk about your experience of coaching and how you got into coaching?
Well, as a player, I felt like just from the tutelage of my dad and knowing what my older brother, what we knew about the game, when you play with people your age and you can kind of help build their confidence when, that last person is picked, you see the look on their face, but I'm the type of person that feel like I can make that person maybe not get picked last the next time because I'm going to make this person a better basketball player. And so I was able to do that a lot in high school and especially when I got to college, you play with a better level of guys. But then, when your coach says you're like a coach on the floor, it kind of already had me thinking that when I finish, coaching is probably what I'm going to want to get into because I know I can impact people with my story and with my knowledge of what I know about basketball. And when I retired in 2003, I was able to get a nice little private high school job. And that really kind of started my coaching bones. And then I had to go back to East Tennessee to get my degree because, I was so gung-ho on making the daggone NBA. Yeah. I stopped going to classes. And see, these are the stories I can tell students now, take advantage of it while you're there.
Right.
Coming back to school at 35.
That's tough. That's hard.
Yeah. I'm walking around with a backpack. I look like the ordinary student, but I'm a grown man right now, and it was a weird feeling. But when I got my degree and then I became an assistant coach at Bluefield College and then on the men's team. And then I became an assistant coach at Leeds McCrae on the men's team. And then, you dream to be a head coach. I just didn't care if it was going to be men or women. I felt like I know the game. I'm going to be able to teach anybody. And the women's job opened and my athletic director gave me an opportunity. And now I'm working on year 4. And we got knocked out of the conference tournament earlier this week. But, the girls made a good turnaround after not making the tournament last year, which had me kind of, tight because we made the tournament my first 2 years and then you don't make it and then you make it again. So it just gives me a better feeling going into the upcoming season. And coaching is something I take serious. You build these relationships with young people. And I always remember Al Addles when I was out at Golden State. One of the things he said to me was, try to learn something new every day, which has me asking a lot of questions. When me and you link up and like off the record, I'm gonna ask you some things that's probably gonna make you be like, okay, because I like trying to figure out what makes you tick or what makes you want to be great. And I try to give my girls that opportunity. Even though girls basketball, I don't think the NBA impresses them as much as it does for the guys because very seldom do they ask me questions about the NBA. But when I coached on the guys' side, they was all for it. They want to know. They want that knowledge. And I want to give it to whoever wants it. So I think becoming a coach was something I knew was going to be in my future. I often wonder how long I can do it because you see some of these great coaches still coaching into their 60s or their 70s. My body been through some injuries. My hip hurts, my knee, 2 ACLs. So all that walking and all that is kind of tough, but my mind stays sharp, and I do believe I could coach it well into my 60s. And like I said, I want to win some championships. I want them as players, so it'd be nice to win a championship as a coach. So that's what I'm grinding for now.
That's awesome. That will happen. Like you did it through your whole life. It's all about persistency, hard work, and believing, and it will happen. We're gonna throw it out to the universe.
Right. Gotta believe it. Cool. Gotta believe it.
I think you hit on some of this already. You kind of gave some nuggets of advice, try to learn something each and every day. Don't take things for granted. Like you said, back in Spanish class, I wish I would have kind of paid attention a little bit more because you never know when you're going to need that knowledge again. But a big reason why I put this platform together is to help inspire the youth. I think a lot of times when you're young, you always think about, I'm young, I still have time, or I don't need to listen to you. Like, you don't understand. Your generation is different from my generation. But
Yes.
you know, being an NBA, playing Division I basketball, being a coach now, you've been through all walks of life. What advice would you give to, you know, the youth that's trying to, and that's in high school, trying to get like a scholarship, get Division I scholarship? What's advice to someone that's in college trying to make it to the NBA? And then talk about, once you're a rookie in NBA, what advice would you give to those folks? Can you maybe just share some of that?
You know, I think when it comes to basketball, I would say my message for a young player would be keep your confidence up, because as soon as you lose your confidence, as soon as a coach or a teammate decide not to believe in you, that can take your confidence meter down. And a quick, simple story that really helped me to become a great shooter was my sophomore year in high school. I played varsity as a freshman. So my sophomore year, the coach gave me the green light. So, you know, everybody that don't know what the green light is, that means you can shoot the ball like anytime you want to, right?
Right.
So I relished in that moment. So I shot a lot, but I hit a period where I wasn't making a lot of shots. So of course that word slump comes into mind, and you know, you like, I'm in a slump right now. I can't believe I can't make a shot. So I can remember talking to my mom. My mom looking at me, looking at my face all dejected. What's wrong with you, boy? Mom, I'm in a slump right now. We got a big game. I can't make shots. She was like, slump? She said, baby, have you made that shot before? I was like, yes, ma'am. She said, well, you can make it again. It was like a bulb went off in my head, like, okay, I'm never using that word again. So from that moment on, I never felt like I was in a slump again, which made me feel like I'm shooting the ball even better. And it was just so funny. I just happened to tell one of my sophomore players this the other day, and I would, you know, right before our tournament, she told me, Coach, I've been in a little slump. I'm like, hey, my mom said, don't believe in that word slump. If you made a shot before, you can make it again.
Yep.
So little nuggets like that, I think, will help a young player. Don't be discouraged in mistakes. You're gonna make mistakes in basketball. You're gonna make mistakes in life.
Right.
But how you get back from those turnovers will determine what your future could possibly hold.
Absolutely.
Today's youth, the NBA, I would say continue to work on your craft. You know, I mean, if this is your job, if your job is to be the best basketball player you can be, you got 24 hours in a day, and you only practice 2 of those hours, you got 22 more hours, you better find some more time to perfect that craft. Because so many young people want that dream. And if you're not staying on top of it, that next class is coming. And then that next class is coming. That's the thing about the NBA. Somebody is always getting ready to be that next one.
Exactly.
That's one of the things that drove me. I played with a sore groin. I played with hurt jam fingers, dislocated fingers, all because I know if I sit out, it could be that day that
could be your last day
has an incredible day. I mean, actually, that's probably how I got in there. So, you know, you gotta work on your craft as long as you can, as long as your body is willing to let you do it. And, you know, like I say, you don't neglect the simple blessings. You know, if you're a believer, what God has done for you, if you know what your family has done for you, your friends, let them people know you appreciate them. And I think that comes back to you.
I like that a lot. Everything you shared, I think it goes in all aspects of life, you know, whether it be sports, in the business world. It's kind of, you kind of reminded me some of those things too, you know, always try to stay humble, but be confident and just be blessed in where you're at. I mean, there's always gonna be good and bad, but things always come around and it all works out at the end of the day. Just gotta stay positive. So I like that. Well, sir, Mr. I should say, that was kind of a lot of stuff that I had that I want to ask with you. And I thought that, you know, the rest of the world would love to hear. But is there any final comments or anything else you want to share?
No, I mean, I would just say, you know, appreciate the life that you're getting to live, you know, and understand, you know, some people might be more privileged or some people might have more, but it doesn't make you a worse person if you don't have those things. That's one of the things that I've always believed in. I mean, I know some people are going to have more money than me. They're going to have better degrees than me. But if we're man to man and you look at me in my eyes and I'm looking you in your eyes, I'm not going to say that makes you a better person than me. Absolutely. So just believe in yourself. Believe that you are meant to do something, and hopefully it's your dream. But if it's not, then you got to plug on and do what you got to do to live the life that you want to live. All I know is if you do nothing, you probably won't get anything. So just keep grinding and keep moving forward and just live in that moment. You know, they say you know, when you're in that zone, you don't get to be in that moment a lot. So when you're in it, you should really smile in it, laugh in it, cry in it if that's what you need. But
right.
Don't take that moment for granted, because those moments don't come along every day. So I would say in your everyday life, reflect on what you did today. Don't let this day pass like I'm gonna get it again tomorrow, because it could be gone before you know it.
Absolutely. I like that a lot. That's something I try to remind myself. That's something I try to remind others too. I think a lot of people, they have to drink their own Kool-Aid sometimes. Sometimes I'll say something to somebody, I'm like, why don't I do that? But there are days I'm on my phone, I'm looking at it, I'm like, why am I over here taking like 100 pictures of the same thing? It's just like, enjoy the moment. And I think that's one example right there. It's just sometimes everyone, especially nowadays, everyone's so glued into the screen, whether it be the television, phone, but enjoy the moment. Like you said, as time goes on, you're going to wish that time was there again. So thank you very much. I appreciate that, mister. And I look forward to being in contact more, sir.
Yep, no doubt. Well, you know, we usually get out of school around May. So right around the end of May or something, I'm going to hit you up. Let's go have some lunch and chat it up a little bit.
Let's do it. Sounds good, sir. I appreciate you.
No doubt. Hey, you take care.